All right. I want to thank everyone for being here today. We've worked really hard for the last 2 weeks putting this together. It's really funny and it is we know what to do from a restoration business and coaching. And I know how to run a business. I won't say blindfolded, but that's the easy part. But putting together this webinar and all the moving pieces to this and the emails has been it's a challenge. It's uncomfortable, but I feel like we figured it out and I feel better about it now. So I hope everyone's experience so far has been great because it's going to continue as we talk about this. What we're talking about is an idea that I've had for quite a while. If you don't know me, my name is Clark Brown, and I own a firm called Restoration Advisors that I can't read the comments. I'm sorry. I'll read the chat comments a little bit later. I can't read them off of my monitor. Restoration Advisors and the owner of a community and an alliance of independent restorers, what we call AIR. I was a contractor in restoration and primarily in disaster, large loss and complex losses, commercial for a long time. I have managed some companies for other people. I've owned my own. I've been a share stakeholder in a couple of restoration companies, some of them successful and some of them not. And I've learned a lot of things. But I don't know, about 5 or 7 years ago, I decided that I didn't want to travel as much as I was, and I wanted to be a coach. And I've loved every minute of it. Has its own unique challenges, but I love seeing other people successful. And what I have found over my years is I answer oftentimes the same questions over and over and over. It's a new generation coming in, but how do we start a business? Or some people go to YouTube or online, or they go to, there's some good consultants out there. There really are. And you get pieces of it, but what does a framework and a step-by-step guide look like from fundamentals on starting a company? I'm talking about pre-launch, through the life cycle, through the growth mode, through the first, what to do next and next and next. And as technology has changed, as marketing has changed, the attention of the public has changed. There's so many changes. Even our own education has grown and changed, right? So all the way through, as well as some of the challenges. This is going to be a very, very relevant and modern and fresh course. Meaning some of the challenges we're dealing with right now that we're helping people overcome, we're going to address those. But this is going to be a course to help, whether you're brand new or if you're a few years into this, or if you've been doing this for 10 years. I can't imagine that you're not going to be able to pull something away from what we put together. But we said, let's just package this and bring it all into one place where it's a sequential framework, and then add some other components to it. So I don't want to waste a whole lot of everyone's time today. Time is valuable. I know restorers at around minute 22, you get a little antsy, your phone's ringing, you're anxious about who's calling, you got a tech that's worried about something. I get it. So let me tell you right now, if you need to leave here, or if you were registered and you did not show up, we're going to be recording this, and you will receive an email later today with the recording. So whether you're here or not, you want to watch it again, or you missed it, you'll have an opportunity to see it. Okay. What are we doing today? So we've been building this course out for a while, and we're getting really, really close. There's so much to it, but as we were getting close, it dawned on me that let's have a conversation with our peers and validate and make sure that, number one, we're on the right course and that we don't skip anything. Okay. If you know me, if any of you know me through either the Restoration Rebels group that I started or the current ones I've had, I'm all over the boards. I love community. I thrive on interaction with people. I love bringing people together. I like learning things as a group. So I said, why not bring that into this creation? Okay. So we're going to be talking about the course today. I do have a slide deck. I've got some images. Not a big fan of those, but it's going to really, really help bring some things there. But I don't want to just waste your time. I'm actually got 2 small little micro lessons and teachings that I'm going to teach today, both very valuable. So whether or not you've been in business a long time or just now, this is going to be it. And then lastly, I'm really going to give you a big reward for being here today, for being part of this exercise with me. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Anybody have any questions? Toby is helping me out here with any questions because I can't see it. Toby, got any questions for anybody? No. We're going to go.
Mike Davis said, "Why you scoop yourself up?"
Mike, I've gotten really good at this, but I won't lie to everyone. Toby will tell you, I've been nervous all day. If I get in front of an audience, if I stand up, it doesn't matter. I always do well. I always deliver well, but you always just get that. You've heard it, imposter syndrome. Who am I? What am I doing up here? But I'm going to do the best. I just always imagine that I'm talking to my friends, and that's how I always do very, very well. So I'm going to get started here. What we're talking about is this is a fundamental based course. I've planned it for 45 days. I'll explain that in a little bit. That, believe it or not, does not give us a lot of time to go super deep and granular on a lot of topics. There will be some bigger areas that we have multiple days of lessons on. We're going to stay in order. We're going to stay sequential, and there will be worksheets and whatnot. But we're going to have some other options to help expand what we learn in that. And then, there may be some other things that created in course come out of this. So the reason we do this is too long. We just fail. We show up and we hope and pray. We work in a disaster industry. We're faced with unknown circumstances, organized chaos all the time. And we run our businesses that way. Your best SOPs and processes, they're only as good as the last time you used them. So failing is a very big part of running an emergency services mitigation company. Okay. It doesn't matter how long you've been in it. The rules change, everything's changed. So we want to see what we can do to try to help. I can't say end that pattern, but let's see what we can do to try to curb that and try to I always know how to do something better if I have a plan. So if we have it done, it'd be good. So we're going to develop this what we hope is this incredibly popular, something that lives on for years, probably will need to be updated in a few years, republished. But I wanted to have something what I like to call evergreen, that new restorers can really come in, and that's only going to help all of us. So Toby here. Somebody's asking, does this apply to both the independent and franchise? Absolutely. Yeah, we are not going to get into, I'll tell you right now, we'll talk about it a little bit more, but yes, the answer is yes. And that's a great question. I listen, I don't care what services you offer. You might do mold remediation. You might not. You might do trauma. You might not. This is going to be a lot more of the business. Those little finite nuances of things that might apply to your company are things that I'm going to want to have some conversations about throughout the learning process. Is more of a mastermind and coaching, and you'll hear more about that a little bit later on. So we just need a system. Movies are made with a script. Can you imagine watching a new James Bond movie if there were not a script and all of those things where people didn't know what to do next and when to cue for this and the like? So we run our businesses just hoping that it all works out, and we figure it out. That's the cool thing about most of us is we work through it, and our customers don't see most of that stuff. But you know what? It's taxing, it's expensive, and it's frustrating. And a lot of restorers feel like a failure all the time, just feel like they're not getting anywhere. And I'll tell you this industry, we're helping people. We should be compensated and feel great about what we do because of the good work that we do. So we're going to create one, and I want your help today. So I said earlier, I'm kind of tribe-based, I'm community-based, and this is why I'm including everyone here today, is help validate the idea. Validate the idea is there's a real popular thing that people like myself, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily creative, but I have a lot of ideas, so maybe I am creative. I have a lot of ideas, but sometimes they're just in your own head, and you only listen to that voice. And I'm sure you can probably relate to that in your own business. Just what you think is great and working might not be. I've always really, really gotten great results for asking others and soliciting feedback from people much smarter than myself. All I want to do is be the person that brings it to market and puts it out there for everybody to enjoy and to learn with. And then I want to do collaboration today. That's what that's going to be. I feel like I'm going to leave here today with a lot of questions and a lot of notes and suggestions that we probably did not think about. So told you I was going to teach you on some lessons today. I'm going to breeze through this because we can really get hung up in the weeds. The first lesson that I want to talk about today is one that's very popular, that I talk about with clients a lot and oftentimes in the groups online. And a lot of people have said, Clark, you should package that and model it up. It's probably nothing that you're not doing yourself, but it's called client onboarding. What is client onboarding? Don't we already do this? I mean, you may feel like you're already onboarding your client. Well, that's different now than it used to be. And I'm talking specifically with some of the challenges with carriers and programs and even the way people shop now. So first part of client onboarding is you've always just got to remember who your client is. Your client is the insured. It's a person that owns or is insuring and is pretty much the person that's going to pay you. And that's never the insurance company. The insurance company does not pay you. What happens is we often leave the client out of this situation, and that causes a lot of issues. But number one, I've always thought to myself, as a customer, as a homeowner who has services done at my house, if I were left out of the communications chain, I'd be a little bit pissed off. So I think we sometimes leave the customer out, but we also don't hold them accountable for their part in this game. Can you imagine what it feels like to have a client as a cheerleader? So doing this, and this is a proven process. This is, you may have seen this. You may have gotten lucky and had the right customer who came from the right referral partner and that. But when you really install a system, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, and you're consistently throughout the whole thing, you end up having customers who not only ensure that you get paid, but you know what, you get referrals from them, and they love the work and they give you great reviews and just so many great things. But the indirect thing is your team feels great about working with people that they're having a good experience with, not the hard customers. It really brings down our staff. So we need to improve, and I spelled improve wrong, the success rate of getting paid on time and quickly. This system helps that. So let's have customers. I look at things like I look at customer journeys as almost it's a journey. Imagine customers getting on a plane or a bus. If anybody's read Move My Cheese, you customer calls you. They have a specific disaster or a need of some sort. They call you as an expert, but they don't know what to do next. And when we're not communicating with them and we're not really diving deep into that and exceeding all expectations and doing things we've never done before, communicate in ways that we never have before. When we start doing those, what I always like to say is I want a customer, whether it's commercial or residential, to say, why doesn't every contractor do things this way? Now, the easy stuff is being on time. The easy stuff is, that's what you should be doing. Doesn't happen all the time, right? So people don't know where to go. So we're going to be their guide, and we're going to be the hero. We're going to be the contractor professional, especially the way we promote that we are experts in, IEQ and things like that. We got to show up and do that. It can't just end by talking about it. So let's make it easy for them to be on our side when it comes time that they've got that invoice in their hand or when that check shows up. So I have this entire framework of onboarding broken down into a few steps, and it's different segments of the customer journey. And the first one is clearly before you ever even meet your customer, before you even know they exist, before you get the phone call. And those are things like your brand, your website, the language on your website. That's your clean trucks, the uniforms, your social media, your website. There's just so many components of that. The groundwork you've laid with your referral partners on how to portray you. Everybody in this industry, we talk about Chick-fil-A, but you have a preconceived notion on if you have Chick-fil-A in your region of you're going to go to Chick-fil-A and you know what you're going to get before you ever go, because they were already planning that experience before they even met you. So let's, the framework is look at things around your brand, your marketing, your messaging. And again, when I say messaging, there can be subdued things on your website that reiterates how the effective, I see convective communications here. How would you want to be? What would you want to see on a website? That you serve my area, that you actually understand my particular issue. You can scratch that itch. You can make reference to a couple of things that the customer, they don't know if they can say that. They don't know if they have to move out. They don't know what it's going to look like. They don't know what can be salvaged or what not. What about their pets? What their power bill is going to look like. So we know the answers to all this. We just don't focus on that because we're focused on so many other missiles that are coming at us. The second part of this phase is when they do call, that one time when they do pick up the phone and they've decided, I like what I see. Referral partner told me about them, because people do check you out, believe me or not. I know people go to Google and Facebook pages and try to check out, hey, what are they about? And that's where I think you should really be focusing on your social proofing. Have, your team pictures, your culture, show, they don't care about dirty pictures of jobs in the house. They don't want to see that. They want to see the good stuff that you're doing, the staff that you've got in a training class. They travel 3 states away to do training just to be certified so they can serve their community better. But now they found you. Now it's time to reassure them that they made the right choice. And that starts with who's answering the phone. I know I have a lot of owners here on the phone today. You shouldn't be the first person that answers the phone. I hope that you've got hopefully an admin or someone designed, because this is critical point, that first call. And I've got a lot of coaching around that. Don't start peppering and hammering away. What's your claim number? What's your address? When did this start? Just say, hey, are y'all okay? Has the plumbing company been out? It's a fire. Do you have any, what's your first concern? What's your biggest concern? We have a whole triage of things we're going to do, but you start reassuring them and communicating in a way that says you've made the right choice. We're going to help you through this. Next phase is when your texts do show up. This is one that everyone can relate to. And I will tell you personally, traveling across this country with clients who tell me we have an awesome team. And I get it. And I think we all do, but hold on, my mic is falling down. But what if you had a secret shopper program? I worked for a company here out of Richmond that actually was in Richmond, North Carolina, Maryland, really, 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 really large company, had all home services, plumbing, HVAC, electrical, restoration, and they use secret shoppers because we think our techs are showing up and smiling. We think that their uniforms are on, maybe they're putting the booties on and these things, but I will tell you, it's usually not happening the way we think it is. So if you've done great in the first 2 segments of customer onboarding, that's your messaging. And then you did great and you answered the phone and I know Sally or Jeffrey or whoever answered the phone really got this customer thinking, man, this is going to be great. And then your technician shows up and he's had a really bad day. He's probably 40 minutes late, parks in the grass, just rude, just, whatever. Hygiene's terrible, has terrible breath. Believe me, all that stuff matters. So this is an area where you really have to just, again, have a framework on customer onboarding. How do you ensure that every single touch that's happening is what it is? And I think this is the most important and critical work that anyone, a leader or a team in a company can do, because we're busy collecting and chasing money, which is all important, but it might not be the most important, and that can be done by somebody else. But someone has to design this system. What do we got here? I think getting the calls coming in are the biggest obstacles to start with. Hey, don't disagree with you. Very, very difficult. There's going to be a big part of this course. It's on lead generation. It's not easy, guys. But I will tell you, some people are winning at it, and I've got some recipes and some real feedback on what that looks like. But it's not easy, but I promise. Thank you for the comment, Tony, right? It's not easy, but neither is drying a house when you don't know what you're doing. But listen, we're going to talk about some myths about this stuff. But right now in this lesson, I always said how you do anything is how you do everything. It's really tough when 2/3 of the team is a 9 out of 10, and then the customer is going to come and hit a 4. Okay. So, and that could be a person or experience, or you drop the ball in another area. Listen, they're going to tell you what those are. Hopefully they tell you where they haven't been very experienced, but what happens after that? What are your touches? How can you ensure that your staff is overworked? We all know we have a staff issue right now, right? Getting labor, getting good people, what it costs to get them. A lot of topics around that, but this is a non-negotiable. Okay. This is a non-negotiable thing that you have to get this part figured out, because your customer will end up being the most important part when it comes time to getting paid. And then this last piece I think here is invoicing correctly. And what I mean by invoicing correctly is, have you communicated with your customer? Did you actually do a contract or a work authorization? When you hand them the invoice, are they going to be shell shocked? Was that the first time that they had any idea what this was going to cost? I don't even have to ask. I know this is a very, very, very weak area in our industry, because we estimate later, and we also don't always communicate that with the customer. We're worried about the insurance company approving it. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit later, but you need to create a process on your invoicing. And I mean, how you communicate with the customer, how you get the feedback from your techs and your project manager to make sure you're capturing everything, make sure there's not something on there that didn't happen. That was very embarrassing. Your mitigation documentation package, make sure you get all the components in there for the documentation, whether it be the readings or the pictures or whatever. That's very important. And then how you deliver that, and then how you start to do the process of following that up. So all of these steps, and this is going to be in this course, everyone, this is going to be a component. It's going to be a couple of days of it, because it's very important. I have seen a good process around this vastly improve the collectability of things and shorten that cycle, and absolutely get the customer on your side. I wouldn't be talking about this if it wasn't true. So what you want to do is develop a partnership with your customer. Okay. You want them to be on your side. Listen, I'm not going to mince words here. We all have had experiences where, and I'm not talking about program or non-program. That's obviously a big piece of this, and it's harder to do the client focus when you're on a program in TPA, but I'm going to call BS on that. I still think there's a lot of opportunity to win there. But you need to develop a partnership so they are on your side. They are going to bat and protect. It's important that they go to bat for themselves and protect their own. It's their house, their insurance. They bought that policy. It is not our job to fit into what they've got coverage for. It's our job to do exactly what needs to be done. And I think the right customer would appreciate that. They don't want someone who's a patsy. They want someone who's confident. You would not want your doctor to skip around what needs to be done because of what your insurance covers. They're concerned about getting you healthy, so they're going to do what they need to do, and then let the rest of it figure out. So that's brief. Certainly, it's a brief thing. If that's all you hear from today, I challenge you to go and to implement, and sit down with your team and say, let's look at this journey. Let's look at this journey through the whole thing and see how we could improve, and how take where we are now and do better. Call old customers that never gave you reviews. Call customers up and say, you know what, we're doing a real big deep dive in our company right now. What could we have done that would have improved your experience with us? So I really want you to do that. So customer onboarding, it's going to be a huge part of this. Fires are different. Waters are different. Trauma is certainly different. Make sure you've got the right people. Make sure your team is ready to deliver what you said they're going to do. So let's talk about the course for a minute. Spend a little time on that. Won't bore you to death. Okay. What will this course be about? Okay. I've already kind of prefaced it. I just want to be super clear. It's going to be 45 days of simple and clear video lessons that will be accompanied with worksheets, workbooks, some of them with downloads, lots of references. They may be external or maybe things that we created. You'll have a lot of stuff at the end of this. You'll have a little binder. I would recommend you have a 3-ring binder, print some things out as you go through this. We are going to keep it simple. We're going to keep it clear because we're not going to make it complicated. Our business is complicated, but the steps to improve will not have to be easy to follow and actionable. Okay. And then we're going to go at a moderate pace. We're going to have 1 clear video per day so you can learn as you go. And then you will have access to it eternally. And what I mean is you're purchasing this, and it's not just going to be in your email. It's going to be in a really nice library where you can consume again. Your team can start from the beginning, etc. So this will be consumable on multiple devices there. You've got tablets, iPhone, desktop, wherever you are. We've ensured that we have a platform that works for all those situations. And then lastly, this course is going to have a community component. So you're going to have an access to a community of other students taking this particular course, experiencing this particular journey, and you'll be able to talk about the wins and losses and of what they're having. So I'm going to give you a few examples of the modules. Again, as we go through from day 1 to day 45, there will be some bigger chunks of what I call pillars, and then some smaller ones that are just breeze over. But some of them require a few days to linger on because they're a little more complex. And one of them is going to be the research before you start. It's going to be very, very valuable for people that are looking to get into this business. And those are the questions: whether do I go independent? Do I get a franchise? Do I have this service? Do I do that? What market? All the questions. But I'm going to help with deciding what some of those look like. Again, super strong for someone that's already in business, but I bet you that someone at 2.5 years or 3 years in probably could talk to himself saying, you know what, if I go back to the fundamentals and ask myself those questions, I can probably redesign how I move forward. What kind of, again, colors, et cetera, what kind of work am I going to do? Where am I going to get my work from? Which is my next slide is the startup. Is okay. You've done all the homework and I want to spend a couple of days on the startup. It is nothing saying that ABC Restoration in Poughkeepsie, New York can't say, we're going to have a grand reopening. We have redesigned our company. We have stripped off what we designed it with years ago, learned a whole lot of new things. And then we're going to go back to basics, and we're going to meet customers where they are now, because customers are different than they used to be. Economically, socioeconomically, houses are different. The science that we're using is differently. But you're going to make a big startup. You're going to make a big splash. You're going to have the big launch. Okay. So I'll tell you right away, if you're starting up a restoration company, or if you've had one for a couple of years, everybody should know what you do, and they should consider you an expert. I have a real quick example. I have a colleague in New Jersey that worked in the city for a long time for Verizon, really worked in the corporate side of Verizon. Just got tired of the rat race, 10, 12, 13 years of the grind, suit and tie, traveling to the city. Started a disaster restoration company. He started it because he had a flood in his house, and he was so underwhelmed by the work that got there. And then he saw how much it was and said, I could do that. He's a year and a half into it. We're working together on just trying to launch. He's in a very competitive area in New Jersey, really expensive. Obviously, Xactimate in that region wasn't keeping up with things. But he called me up one day a little upset and said, man, I just realized that I got a buddy that I worked with at Verizon, has a huge house up in New Jersey, big house, flooded. He called in somebody else, and I saw it on Facebook, and I was like, why didn't you call me? He goes, I didn't know you did that. Boom. He goes, Clark, I knew 600 people from Verizon. I had not made it a big deal on my own Facebook page or even reached out to people. So he did that, and I think it really changed some things here. Got a question. What we're looking at? Comment. Fundamentals are so true. We're working on how to answer the phone and what info to get and what message to give. Yeah. So that's Wayne. Wayne, great friend of mine. We're having a grand opening in February. So Wayne Atowski, Wayne, great restorer. I know you've been in this business a long time, but it's never, ever, 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 never, ever too late to reinvent yourself. I'm in a reinvention mode in myself. I'm doing things in my business that I really never thought I would be doing. So, but that's great, Wayne. But yes, reinvent yourself. There are special things you can say there. I think you'd be surprised if you heard some things in this lesson that we're in this course about things your customer probably would relate to a whole lot better. Sometimes we speak like restoration technical people. Customers don't know what the heck we're talking about. So we can change that vernacular. It's not time for that yet. There's a time to show authority and display your expertise. But right now, you're going to use your ears more than your mouth. So anyway, I'm going to keep going for a minute. Then we're going to take some questions here in a second. Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go to the next slide here. My clicker is stuck, everyone. Sorry. There we go. Leads. This is a big one. Can't tell you how many people start a service-based company. This is not just our industry. Have a preconceived notion about how easy this is going to be. And this may be from their prior experience of working somewhere, maybe even a different market. They start this and the phones won't ring, or the leads they wanted to pursue are super expensive or not the kind of clients they want. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to have a whole section about sales, marketing, networking, and leads. But this is a big one. And people say, I can't get my phone to ring. And I have to ask the question is, that should have been in your startup plan. You should have actually worked through some of that stuff. Who's going to know about you and what are they going to think when they find out about you? So we're going to talk about what to avoid on leads. I've got a lot to say about lead generation companies. I've got a lot to say about obviously programs and TPAs. This is not going to be a bash fest. There is a place for them, but I'm going to give you the warnings about continuing and growing with TPAs and programs, how it harms you, your customer, and our industry. Finances, the worst part. Probably one of the things we discuss most with clients is you got to know your numbers. You cannot be a restoration professional. You've got to be a business owner that happens to do restoration. You've got to know your number. You've got to know your overhead. Toby and I have been working the last 3 weeks on our blog and our podcast on this topic: markup, margins, overhead, adjusting your prices. I would ask everybody right now, in the last 60 days, who has raised their prices? Because I can guarantee you the cost of doing business has gone up. That doesn't just populate. Xactimate doesn't account for it nearly quick enough. You've got to raise your prices as fuel goes up, as labor expenses go up, supplies, materials, equipment is really expensive right now. Someone I know just made a big equipment purchase right now because he thinks it's going to get even higher next year. So he used his capital right now to make an investment, but it's still more than he wanted to pay. Guess what? That changes your business. If you owned a restaurant and your food costs went up, what would you do? You'd raise your prices. This is an area where we see probably most people sink, is they run out of cash flow. And it's a challenge, and you're going to be told you're the highest in the market. It's not always the worst thing. So you got to outsell that. You got to outperform it and set the expectations real high. So, and then staffing. This is probably going to be a big one. Not just, this obviously is a big topic. Who to hire, when to hire who, what should an organization structure look like for a $500,000 or $1 million, scaling up into $2 million? What should I, pay people? How do I incentivize? How do I cultivate leadership? How do I do evaluations? So many points there could really, really get tough, but we're going to spend some time on that, especially it's very, very difficult now. But if I'll just say right now, if you don't buy this and take this course, you have to get good at holding people accountable. If you don't, you're going to stay where you are for a long time. It's going to be really, really, really difficult. Or you're going to be financing your own business to grow. You need to develop people that run your company and care about it a lot. So that's a big part of it. So we've got a lot more subjects. We're going to talk about equipment. A lot of people jump into this industry and buy a whole lot of equipment and spend their very precious cash flow. A lot of people buy the wrong equipment. We're going to talk about the equipment you need to do different types of work, OSHA compliance, things like that. There is going to be some parts in this about safety. This course is not going to be a super technical certification course. I'm going to leave that to all the instructors in the industry that do such a good job. We're not going to do a lot of that stuff, but we're going to have a lot more of subjects around finances, the operations of your company, just everything. So So this is where I'd like to open up the floor, and I'd like to get some feedback. What are some things that you all would like to make sure that, and I want everyone to know here before we open that up, we're probably 80%, 75, 80% done with the structure and outline of this. We already have it mapped out, but we have some space in there for what we don't know. Because we wanted to ask, and what are some of the things that just you say they just can't be in there? You may blurt something out. It's going to come up in the chat. Toby's going to save that. We can talk about it for just a moment. I don't want to get too lengthy here. We're going to a couple of minutes into this thing. But what are some things that can't be left out? And whether or not it's you saying, I want to buy this, but this is where I struggle, or I've been doing this 15 years, 12 years, and I wish I had known now what I knew. I wish I had knew that when I started. Okay. I saw a quote by Mark Twain the other day saying, it would be perfect if we could be born at the age of 80 and slowly age back to 18, Benjamin Button style. Born knowing what you know with the wisdom, but go back to your youth where you can actually enjoy life to do it. So got some topics here. I'm gonna get the iPad from Toby here. Procedures and how to implement to employees and new employees. So I think what Wayne's saying is SOPs, processes. It's very difficult. It's very difficult because we work with a lot with people on that and implement that in actually in a digital way with Trainual now. The question is always, how granular do you get? Do you talk about how to turn the screwdriver left and right, or how much of that do you leave? How much is it every process? I've often said, why not? Why not have every process? Anybody who's ever read the book E-Myth by Michael Gerber is talking to, she's a baker, cookie maker, or a baker of pastries and something. How much flour goes into, your recipes have to be documented, what temperature of the water, how to clean the equipment, and, show that. I think that's important, but you've got to start with the ones that are hurting you the most, the ones that you do more often, the bigger ones, and then start getting granular inside of that. But you want to start getting to where your staff can start creating them. So just creating an SOP is one thing. You're right. And, we're going to talk about how to have training days and document that and hold people accountable for what they learned. But here's the thing about SOPs and training and coaching and stuff like that. Thank you, Wayne. You got to stop the turnover. You can't just continue you lose money on training. It costs a lot of time and money. And I'm talking, you're paying these people to be into a training day. Bob Timmel up in New York, he had last Wednesday, the whole day, no production happened. It was a training day. They had 5 different modules of training. They videotaped them. They had a GoPro. It will go into the SOPs in the future, but containment, donning and doffing PPE, equipment placement, stuff like that. Non-program startup, client onboarding ideas without referrals from insurance companies. I'll tell everybody right now, if you're starting in this industry brand new, I get this call once, twice, 3 times a month. I'm wanting to get in this industry. I know a few agents and I'm gonna get work from insurance companies. I'm here to tell you that's probably not going to be as easy as you think. And you're going to be giving up a lot of margins. Insurance companies have figured the game out and you are behind the times a little bit on that. So not saying it's impossible, might be a part of your business, but don't let it be everything in your business because there's a lot of things about that. Let me look at the iPad here. We've got another subject here. Get your free Google My Business profile. Yep. Chad K says, get your, these are some real easy things to set up your Google My Business profile set up. If you don't have it, 15K. Yep. It's free. Everyone should have it. If you have multiple locations, every location should have a Google My Business. I have a Google My Business, and my business is called Restoration Advisors. And I get, 3 calls a month just off of people with the word Google, because it's based on local. People now shop and they integrate with their phone into their daily life. So when they're on their phone and they use Google Maps or something, and they're looking for a flooded basement near me, the word restoration, and I put a lot of content out there. So we're going to talk a lot about, sales and marketing and how not to pay a lot for your SEO, your pay-per-click, your lead gen. I am a really big proponent of running a very lean business because cash is king. You will know what I'm talking about. We're going to talk about that in this course, but cash is king and you need to keep as much of it and you need to protect it. I just put a video out 2 days ago about 4 ways that I say that people should protect their cash. Don't Don't hire for the wants, hire for the needs. Wait till you have stupid money. The wealthy don't get wealthy by spending all of their money. They keep their cash. They live like they're broke. It's not popular. A lot of people want to do it otherwise, but finding ways. And listen, the ways are out there. We just don't know what they all are. I'm going to bring as many of them as I can bring into this. So anyway, any more subjects there, Toby? No. Well, Toby, what else is on our list here? I mean, we're going to talk about strategy. We're going to talk about sales.
You just said it's not getting cold calls coming in.
Yeah. It's so you're going to have organic, you're going to have Google, you're going to have that, and I can tell you right now how to improve that, but you've got to have referral partners. You've got to have people, consistent work is going to mean multiple ways. You can't just make income from one thing. Cause what happens is one day that I can't tell you how many people I know that got all their work from one plumber, and that plumber cut them off and went to somebody else because of one mistake. Whoop, there goes all the phone calls. Had no other plan. Never, ever, ever put all your eggs in one basket. So we're going to be talking about, again, I'm just going off the top of my head. We have a Billy Robe leadership. Leadership is lacking in our industry. There are going to be some little pieces. I'm not going to go real deep, but I would tell everybody, commercial work in your backyard doesn't have to be large. It can be commercial. It's a good filler. When the community finds out that you can actually help on the commercial side, and what those circles are, and you can get into that world a little bit, it can exponentially change your business. And really, even commercial work can create more residential work. So those are some components. So anything else out there? Yeah, we're going to have we're going to have probably finances and leads and sales and marketing. I see a lot of people hiring salespeople. It takes a lot of skill to manage salespeople. That's something I would like to spend a little time on. Is just hiring the right person is not enough. You've got to keep that strategy. I will tell you what's missing in most businesses is a real direction and discipline of mission and vision. Like, where are we going? I can promise you that a lot of people in this industry, if I go talk to your staff and your techs and your office manager and ask, what's the mission statement? They don't know. But what's the goal? Where are you trying to go? I don't know. I just show up every day and do what I'm told. It's not good. It's not a good. You could have all these people rowing this boat with you. You're putting a lot of friction between you and success by trying to do it all and muscle your way through it. It doesn't work that way. And you eventually figure that out. But I want to curb that. I'd like people to start realizing that in their first 6 months. Toby and I did a podcast on the what is it? 5 things that survival instinct to survive in the contracting world, whether you're remodeling a new home building, you've got to know what you're doing. You got to have we consider it probably a journeyman's level. If you're starting this business without knowing anything about it, I'm not going to say it can't be done, but you've got an uphill battle. There's a lot of complexities. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of landmines, IEDs buried that you're going to come across that are just going to throw you off your game. I think you got to know your number. You got to be prepared to work hard. You got to be realistic and patient. It's going to take a while. We had a podcast with Chris Laney. He's in his 20th year. He said, Clark, I just now, about 5 years ago, he goes, I feel like I now have a business that is successful and it runs and I can walk away a little bit and do some other things, which he is. He's teaching with Chuck DeWald. So anything else there? All good? Okay. Well, let's just breeze through real quick. Again, I'm going to have some options here if anybody wants to come back at me later. I like this one. 45 days. This is someone's already asked me on the registration. Are you telling me, Clark, that let me go to my facial expression. Are you telling me that in 45 days my business will be running like a smooth top? No, I'm not saying that. It's not realistic. But what I am saying is in 45 days, I'm going to try my best to deliver a large amount of consumable and actionable framework to where you can start that journey on your own in 45 days. It's not going to happen in 45 days. So what I like to say is, while you probably can't achieve the business of your dreams in 45 days, you can sink it in 1. And that's true. And anybody here has seen themselves. It doesn't take much. The world is fickle. Everything is fragile. So You really got to be on your game all the time. It's exhausting. So that's where you've got to divide and conquer and delegate and elevate. So the course, like I already said, it's going to be available anywhere: smartphone, desktop, tablet. Watch it from your email. You're going to get it every day. Probably get some extra emails just for some touch ups and some tune ups and stuff like that. Why is it online? This was a question I already got, and this is why I put this into the slideshow. Why are we doing this online? Listen, it's 2021, almost 2022. The world has changed. We have to meet people where they are. There's almost no one that would prefer live interaction than me. I feed off of meeting people. I don't like Zoom. I'm zoomed out. I avoid it when I can. I don't attend a lot of virtual conferences. I'm getting used to it. But if I could do things live, if I could travel this country and meet with people like I love to do. In 2019, I did 15 cities in 5 weeks. I did a really blitz tour across the country. I felt like it was a Guns N' Roses tour. And it was all about estimating outside of Xactimate, how to use, mitigation, how to Xactimate. We're going to talk about that too. Estimating is one of the subjects, by the way. But we're going to do this online, and we're going to try to make it as comfortable as possible, as consumable as possible. If it's not really your thing, I think the content is going to be so strong that you're going to want to make it your thing. But I'm going to be looking for feedback on that. We could discuss a mastermind, but it's still going to be online and virtual. But we're going to have the community for that, and I think that's going to make sense in a few more minutes. So one more time, I'm going to explain the delivery process of this. So we're about 80% through outlining, framing this. We've already working on the documents and worksheets. Really, it's kind of getting down to start filming and producing, which kind of got a little bit of that, but that's a lot of work. So we are going to launch this mid-January. We're not doing this right now. We're not doing it through the holidays or at Christmas. No one's attention is here. Kind of a busy season for some people. The first week or two of January is usually kind of chaotic coming back into it. So sometime late January, you will be getting a lot of updates as we go, probably get some sneak peeks of some segments. We'll probably push those out to some people as it makes sense to not mess up the flow of things. But you will get an email daily. And then, of course, that day, throughout that business day, it will be in your library. We're doing this intentionally. We as entrepreneurs like to jump out and try to consume everything at one time. And then we find ourselves not really learning anything, because I read a lot of books, and I'm guilty of not always consuming and comprehending everything I read because I'm so busy doing and learning that I'm not applying. And I think we all find that in our own businesses. We've all hired programs and coaches, and we're still in the same boat because we haven't really applied it. So I want to try to curb that a little bit. You'll get an email every day. We'll have the community to discuss things, but it's going to flow really good. And I think you'll like the pace, and you'll appreciate not to make it all at one time over a period. Stop when you want to. You're still going to have it in your library. Stop and start. Get behind for a couple of days. It's fine. But that's the pace we're going to do it in. But just want everybody to hold themselves accountable for that. So we're going to get the email a day. It's going to be lined up in the library. The library is really easily to get to. You'll always have it. And again, your team can get into the break room or on their own device and watch it. And then we're going to have a community there. It's built in. It's baked in. You're going to have a quick way to go to the community. And it's not going to be on Facebook, so there won't be all the distractions and the ads and all the drama that comes with that, and just the ADD, the ADHD that comes with social media. So this can be a real kind of a private area. Only students that have made the commitment, which is the only people I want to be there, made a commitment and investment in themselves and their learning. So we're going to get going with that real quick. Lesson number 2. It's going to be a real short one. We talked about this week. We made we made a blog or a post about this? Well, we had a post, and we've talked about this for years. This is something that we started with the Rebels: is words matter. Words mean a lot. So we're going to remove the word estimate when it's not an estimate. We still catch people saying it's a habit. It's built in. It's muscle memory. But you are producing in emergency services generally. You're producing an invoice. Your estimate. You may be estimating work on what you think it's going to be, but you're going to produce an invoice which should be accurate and complete. to what you expect to be paid. It's not negotiable. It's not to be scoured through by some third party across the country to what somebody else would have done it for. If we remove the word estimate, but when that word, when you said, hey, I'm going to send my estimate to a homeowner and adjuster, that begs to say that this is negotiable. So just simply changing that term to invoice, I think, and your team, your whole team's mindset. There are such things as estimates, but we invoice customers for the work we did. So I really, really, really have seen that to be, and we're going to go into that. This terminology matters, words matter, clarity matters. So as I mentioned, mid 2022, January, seems like it's a long way away. I promise you it's not. We're going to be doing this out. So now what are we doing with this course? How much? What's it look like? Okay. We have a public price. We're going to roll this out for $1,850, $1,850 to the public. Hold on. First off, if I'm being truthful, it's probably not very much. I can think of businesses that I've run, and I know people who said, man, if I had had some framework, if I'd have had some structure, if I had known not to pursue work there, if I had known to watch out for hiring in this manner and had been this, if I had known I could charge and put my overhead into my pricing and make a profit, if I knew this, knew that, probably would have saved tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars over the year, and time and energy, and probably trained the wrong people and burned through a lot of good people that I think, knowing what I know now, probably could have staffed a whole lot better. So we're going to roll that out to the public for $1,850. I want to share with you a good quote here as we start getting right in. I love this. I love it, love it, love it. It hurts like hell when the world won't invest in you, but it's excruciating, almost more than you can bear, when you don't believe and invest in yourself. It's written by Julia Cameron. You and I both know you've got to invest. It's one of those 5 survival things. You've always have to be the student. I don't care who you are. You can't be a leader if you're not always learning. The world's changing. We don't use phone books anymore. We don't go to Blockbuster anymore. Our phones now can operate our whole businesses. If you didn't learn how to use a phone, if you were in a coma and you woke up this year and now Apple has an iPhone 13, you don't know how to use it, you're at a disadvantage if you want to be uber successful and be fluid. So I just really want to go into that. As we get here towards the end, are there any questions? Toby, are there any questions coming up? Yeah. So Shelly Brown, hey girl, we're not going to do a Facebook page. We're going to make it easy. We're going to give you the instructions. We're going to have an online community. It's not going to be on Facebook. I am trying my best to get out of the Facebook world, but this is going to be a very good, it's not going to be super, super fancy. Listen, Facebook's changing. They're calling themselves Meta. I'm a little worried about where they're going next. I don't like the tracking. I don't like being a product. I don't like being their way to make money. I just don't like that. I feel a little bit exposed there. So Shelly, we have created an online, you're going to get access to that immediately. So if you buy this today, you're going to get emails on some instructions. You'll have access to the community right away. How is that different than online? You can still meet people on Facebook, but you can start having these conversations, create friendships, go back to the community. We're going to be interacting around this course in there. What that means is on Facebook, if you reach us and you've brought the course and you're trying to get some questions, I'd like to do it there in the community if we can, unless it's private, so that everyone benefits from the conversation, because it might be a question or a struggle or an idea that comes back from the whole group. So we're going to have that online community. Give it a shot. I don't think the world likes to get off of Facebook, but I don't like being on it. I think it's distracting. And what happens is you end up not following the page, and it falls out of your vision, your feed. You don't see it anymore. The algorithms kind of shift you towards things that you're more interested in all the time. This is going to be a non-affected group, and I hope that's okay. Yeah, someone asked about the public. We're going to give a curriculum, what they're going to look like, probably before or right around Christmas, as we finally, because I want to get some feedback here, because it might shift or change. but it's going to be a lot of pieces to open and start a business. So I don't have them all. I mean, I've got it kind of outlined now, but later on we'll get more of those you'll start seeing what the library looks like. But don't want to do that too much, because then people will skip ahead and try to, you're going to try to go to the end of the book, forget all the stuff in the middle, and try to go to that pain. That's fair. And you know what? I can't, if you purchase it, it's yours, you can do what you want to do. But I would tell you that's a lot of the engagement and the problem we've got to get into where we are now. Any more questions? Thanks, Kevin. Any more questions? Anybody? How many people we end up having here? Quite a few, couple dozen. I know we had 35 at one point. I know we had close to 100 enroll. Listen, you're going to get an email from us. I've already said that a few times. I want to keep saying it really clear. You're going to get an email from us with this information again. I hope some of you have already just made the commitment and going to go and buy this thing. Start, getting yourself ready for it. We'll be having lots of emails to you once you've bought to keep you updated of things, give you some updates, kind of have some fun with it. You've got till the 26th to get it at this founder's price. After that, it goes up. And if you have questions between now and then, I think what we have found out, don't reply to the email that comes to you with information. That's kind of like an automated thing and it will not come back to us. Hate to make it really difficult. Email us at members@restorationadvisors.com. That does come to us. Now, once you have purchased and you have access into the community, we get alerted and we will be monitoring there. So your questions can come to us, as well as that email will be in that group for anyone to reach us relatively quickly. But if there are no other questions, I'm really, really, really thankful, really glad to have this done. We've been really excited to launch this. I really want to build something that's, I was talking to, you all know John Grubb. John Grubb and I were talking about this yesterday, and he's like, Clark, why didn't we do this years ago? Why didn't we, why didn't we have something for a framework for a lot? And listen, I'm not Tony Robbins. It's going to be as good as we can make it. We put a lot into it, but I really think that just the way I like to teach, the energy I have and the passion I have for it comes across in a way that's relatable to a lot of people. But I think, what you don't get in this, they're not going to be long videos. I don't even know if I said that. The videos are going to be somewhere between 6 and probably no more than 14, 15 minutes. I really found that more than that, there might be a subject or two that just goes on, but let's leave the discussions more into the group, the community. Okay. So, or contact us one-on-one. So, and then of course, I would tell everybody that throughout this journey, there's some things that just might not be covered in this. And I would be remiss to not advise you that we are coaches and we see the change in businesses when we come and spend some time, or we become a detailed coach and mentor with people. But we want this to deliver the bulk of what you need and have a launching pad to go from 1 million to 4. What does that look like? And maybe you don't want to get that big. So thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all. I really appreciate you being here. I'm really passionate about this. If this is not in your wheelhouse, I don't expect you to buy this. And I thank you for showing up and contributing. But if this is something, I want you to take action. I want you to invest in yourself. We'll do our part. I want you to do your part, and we'll do it together. And then if this isn't your thing, share it with your friends and colleagues. I don't mind. Give me your founder's price just until the 26th. It won't be good for anybody. I don't mind that. I'd like to get this thing going and then slide into, I'm headed out of state the next month, and I'm going to be spending a lot of time on finalizing and creating and filming. I'm just going to get away from the phones and the emails. Toby's going to run the business. I'm going to get this thing produced so we can really, really start 22 out strong style. So if there is nothing else, we're going to wrap up. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Take care of yourself. Reach out to us if you need something. Take care.